Hello, you joined me halfway through the wheel bearing replacement, well, the front wheel bearing replacement of my 1982 EXP, the green one. Yeah, the green one. Yeah. So, from 81 to 83, and when you're at the parts counter, it'll show as early 83. You need to be, excuse me, too much heat today. Your bearings will be a two-piece design like this. It'll be two roller bearings, and they'll fit in the knuckle as such. For 84 to 90, it is a single wheel bearing replacement unit. It simply goes in here, held in with a couple circlips, and then that's it. Seals are, I believe, integrated, but on this, it's 4 separate pieces. Falling out down here, we have first the inner seal. This goes on the back side. It rides up against the shaft here, CV shaft. And both the inner and outer utilize this interesting design where they have an additional wiper on the outside shoulder. Many of the replacements will not. At this point in time, it's not too mandatory. Not many of these cars are going to be seeing, hundreds of thousands of miles underneath this hardware. So, not too important, especially since most of them aren't seeing winter anymore. This is the outside one. If I said outside, I mean inner. Forgive me as I get my words a little mixed up as I'm standing on the outside of the car looking in. This is the inner, oriented as such, followed by a bearing. This is going to be a tapered bearing. And then on the other side, it mirrors the same exact setup. Takes an identical bearing, and then we follow that up with an outer seal. And then it's the hub, and then your brakes, your wheel. So, what exactly is the process for replacement? It's not too bad. The other side was really putting up a fight. It kind of all depends on who did the wheel bearings last and what kind of state they're sitting in. Preferably you'll be addressing these before they're an issue. Even better than that, you'll be addressing them sooner than later, just out of a preventative care. Pretty important. So how to do it is you take off the wheel, obviously, and then next you'll see these pieces here. So the brake rotor will be hung up here as such, mounted to the wheel hub. It's an older style, so there's no bolt that connects the rotor to this. It just sits on there. Requires the wheel to tighten them up. You will remove the brake caliper. It sits right here. It's hauled in with usually 2 Torx head slider bolts, but that may vary depending on who went through the brakes last and what kind of parts they used, of course. So these guys, remove those, and then there will be a metal clip, because this is oriented like so. There will be a metal clip that sits inside of these holes, and then the stays keep it attached to these 2 outer little brackets of the knuckle. And how this spring clip works is you apply pressure here. So the easiest way to do it is the rotor will still be mounted here, and that's handy. So if we assume our rotor is still mounted there, what we're able to do is take any old pry bar, stick it in here. We pry away from the, from the center of the rotor. It's usually better if you can flip the pry rod like this, actually. Pry it this way, and they'll force the clip out. And you can see those two itty-bitty teeth suddenly exposed inside each of these bores. And then a little bit of wiggling, because there may be some good rust spill up in there. Clip comes out, hold on to it. We will be reusing it. It's not too often you find new ones of these. Good news though, they're plenty thick, so it takes a long time for these to go to heck. Set that to the side, and we'll continue the process. With that clip gone, and you've loosened your two caliper bolts, this simply slides out with the brake pads attached. The innermost brake pad will have a center clip, wraps around the piston. The outermost brake pad, bear with me, I bet I'm sitting on it. Yep, the outermost brake pad will have two little clips. You can see this was broke off, but I'm changing these out. These two little clips go inside these two little holes. This is the outer one. You can even see the rust staining from where this was hiding. Set that to a side, reuse them if you want, otherwise get new. Don't want to lose my slider bushing. That there be important. So with that done and gone, get this guy out of the way. And the safest place to get it at this point, set down just like that on top of the sway bar. And you can do this for both sides. I highly recommend it. It works perfect every time. Once you get the knuckle loose from the control arm, you'll pick this up and you'll set back on the control, knuckle like how I showed when we started the video. From this point, it's up to you how you want to proceed next. Because now with the caliper off, we can get the rotor off. Like I said, rotor will simply slide off. The wheel hub, however, will be in here. It'll still be stuck onto the bearings. So you remove the nut. Big, I think 27 millimeter nut. Remove this, lefty-loosey on both sides. Underneath it is a washer. So the whole arrangement, minus the CV axle, will look like that. Remove the nut, remove the washer. The washer will usually have grease or oil behind it and be stuck to the hub. So if it's not coming off, don't worry about it. We'll deal with that later. Just know it's going to come off at some point. And if you're out working on a gravel driveway or in the grass or someplace less than ideal, make sure you don't lose that washer. Kind of special. So now with the nut off of the hub, what you want to do, the best way about doing it, I should say, is we grab a hub puller. This is the one found in the gear wrench slide hammer kit. Now you do not want to be using the slide hammer. Do not make that mistake. You will set it here and you will have to use the tall one of the two. If you want, you can start with the tall and make your way to the short. But to get any threads out of your separating bolt, you have to use the tall one. Reuse your lug nuts, bolt it down all the way. Again, do not use the slide hammer, just use this. Make sure your threads are thoroughly oiled. Make sure the tip is thoroughly oiled. So as you come out, we'll actually end up grinding into the tip a little bit. So by using just a wee bit of oil, you will help mitigate those damages. So by doing that, that will do one or of two things, possibly even both. It will pull this hub out of the bearings, or it will push the shaft out of the hub. It will do one of the two things, and if you're really lucky, it will do a little bit of both. If it starts pushing the shaft out, what you need to do now is disconnect the knuckle from the control arm. So at that point, you will move your brake caliper here, park it as such. It's not going to go anywhere, even with how hard you can be whacking this thing with a hammer if you really need to resort to that. So let me get the axle a little bit out of the way here so you can see. So you imagine this lower ball joint would be inside this pinch clamp set up inside the knuckle. You'll remove a bolt, kind of special bolt. It's kind of knurled on the shoulders. Take a nut off one end, and then what you have to do is wiggle this up and down. Now, don't sweat it. You probably won't be able to do it with your hand. So grab a lawn pry bar. This is the big secret of the universe. Stick your pry bar just like this, so that it's underneath the control arm, way down there where it pivots on the body. But then above the sway bar, and the more length you can get on this thing, the better it will bend. Just be wary if you're trying to do it really close up here. You have a high chance of it slipping off. You could get hurt one way or another. But if you have your bar stuck back in that rear pocket, and your bar has a crook like this, you're going to be absolutely fine. It's not going to go anywhere. You can reef down on this as much as you want. All you have to do is just get just a little bit of pressure off, and then assuming this isn't rusted in there too bad, you can simply poke it through the hole. Feel free to use a screwdriver if you have to. If it's in there pretty good, grab yourself a decent, not this one, a decent punch, poke it through with a hammer, and then you're able to separate the knuckle away from the lower control arm. Now once you've separated it, feel free to feel free to steer with the steering wheel as necessary. If you're working on the right side, at this point what becomes handy is if you can turn the steering if you're on the other side. Right now we're on the driver's side. If you're on the right side, turn your steering wheel all the way to the left instead. That'll make this whole knuckle assembly pop out. If you're on the the left side of the car, the driver's side like I am today, turn your wheel all the way to the right, and that'll move the knuckle again further out and away from all this stuff. So because in the event that your control arms are decent, these are kind of getting hard to find, I gotta say that. You don't want your knuckle messing up your boot or beating up the U-joint too much. The more that moves around, the more it's wearing inside, no matter how little load is on it. And you don't want it banding into the casting here. All that translates to wear at the ball joint, torn boot, which is again more wear, and you're also putting more shock load on the couple bushings over here. So we're trying to avoid that. So that's all the stuff if your axle comes out first. But half of those steps, all the steps on the back half of that, it will eventually come up, even if it's your hub that pops off. If it's your hub that pops off, the hub will be laying around like this, and you will have one race stuck down on there like this, and then the other one that was like this will actually stay back with the knuckle. But because of that, that's usually what makes the axle go in and the hub come off. Now, as soon as your axle starts moving out, you need to disconnect your knuckle from your control arm. That way you're not putting all this force onto the transmission or the rest of the CV shaft. You don't need that. In the event that you get your CV shaft off, but your hub is still stuck to the inside bearing races, the inner cups or cones, not cups, the inner cones of the caged needle bearings. If it's still stuck to those, what you'll want to do is pretty easy. You grab an impact socket, mind you, an impact socket of a just barely smaller size than what the hub is. In this case, my cheap socket set, it's a 23, I think. But just find something that's just the tiniest bit smaller. You don't want something too small, you start messing up the threads or mushrooming stuff. But just the tiniest bit too small, and you can tell it's good because the bearing slides right over it. So then, with this on here, this will be inside your knuckle. Give that socket a few medium, gentle taps with a hammer, and that whole hub and your socket will go flip right out through to the other side, onto the outside of the car. Once that is done, here comes usually the hard part here. You have to drive out the inner and outer seals, these two guys here. Use any method necessary, but do keep in mind, if your car is stock, you'll have this dust shield in the back. Don't goober this guy up. Really, the best thing to do is not to worry about the rear yet, if you see that there. Instead, worry about the front. With the front, take a punch or a screwdriver, gently hammer it into the seal. Once you're underneath and penetrated, pry up, and then you'll have created a dent like this, so that your seal is now D-shaped instead of an O shape. Once it's in a D shape, stick your screwdriver or pry bar or punch underneath, and then you'll simply pry it out like so, and it'll just come flying out. No worries there. So once that outer one is out, if your inner race is still in here, extract that, and then start working on that back seal. And for the back seal, you'll be driving it out from the outside here. Use a screwdriver or a punch. For the seals, I say use a screwdriver, and you'll be perfectly safe because you're not really driving out any metal here. These are mostly rubber, which is the thinnest little steel shell. Inside, the steel is actually kind of the membrane on the inside of the steel, or inside of the seal. So hammering it with any tool necessary is going to be easy peasy. 2 gentle taps with a screwdriver, you're going to be poking through it, or it's going to be so deformed like this into a D shape, you can get in there, pry it out. But a few gentle whacks into the inside seal, and you'll drive out the inside seal and this dust shield that's pressed onto it over it. With that done, now we're definitely in the hardest part here, extracting the 2 inner races. This is quite the chore. You will break out my punch if it's not too dirty. There we go, it's pretty clean. You can see I've chipped some of it off from trying to get these races out. But you'll punch onto the lip of one of the 2 bearings. If you're doing the inside, you'll hit it from the outside. If you're doing the outside, you'll hit it from the inside like this. Just go a little bit round and round until that guy goes flying out. Best technique is try to have the knuckle position like this. It's kind of hard to see here, but I have the lower control arm placed right between the 2 pinch ears for the ball joint, and then this little casting nub here. With it in this position, I can actually strike the knuckle with a hammer pretty darn good without accruing any damage onto the boot, the ball joint, and my impact onto those bushings isn't too severe. So you're able to actually go through and use a bunch of force on this now to do your inside extraction. To extract the outside, you'll turn this around, just so you get a decent view on it. Again, strike it a whole bunch with a punch or chisel. If it's going slow, I got bad news for you. It's not going to get much faster. If it's going slow, what you have to resort to, you're going to bust out the Dremel tool, You'll get in there at an angle like this, and you will cut it. Cut the race, and you'll be cutting it for a little while. I have one of the old ones here. Is this it? No. Yeah, that is the one I had to cut. So, let me show you here. I had to cut it like this, and complete penetration isn't necessary, but it will sure make things easier if you can. And sometimes if you do achieve full penetration, these things can more or less explode on you. But you can see here, there's a slightly different shimmer right at the tip of my pinky nail. And that's not where I was cutting, that's how this guy was forged or cast. So now there's a slight crack in there. So if I were to cut this a little deeper, or sometimes what you have to do is pick a similar slot and then cut it from the other direction. So what you're doing is you're cutting at a different angle now. Trying to get like a pizza slice out of this guy. Doing those two things, and then whether you break through or not, when you go in and actually hit it with a hammer, that thing will come flying out. And I had it on the other side. I had to make 2 cuts because it was in there really, really hard. But then a few strikes with a mallet and bling, it came out flying in 3 pieces. The little pizza slice I cut off, and then the majority of the band, which was remaining after that pizza slice, that had cracked from its stress of expanding and contracting in the air. And that became 2 pieces flying around. So it's something to keep in mind. You do have the chance of getting hurt, as it turns out, while you're using the Dremel on these races. As funky as that may be. But once you've extracted both of those, you go in there with a rag, you clean out all the old oil, old grease, make sure there's no really outstanding burrs or anything, and then you're ready to install the 2 races. You'll take them, and if you're getting Timkens, which I recommend, you will want the set size, you will want the size set 24. So the size SET 24. It's 2 of these per front corner. So to do the entire front of your 81 to 83 car, you need 4 of these. And then to do the rears, I believe it's a set 4 and a set 8. I will have the part numbers of all these in the description. And don't worry, there will be a video sometime soon of me doing all of this to an 84 to 90. So keep an eye out for that if you have one of those cars. Just know that the process is the same. The difference is that the bearing and seal aspect of things has definitely been sped up. So we hammer those in with our seal driver, our bearing and seal drivers. If you're able to freeze the bearing and heat the knuckle, they'll go in quite easily. You'll be able to just merely tap them right on in. It'll if this was laying like face down, you could almost drop it in and it would just go poof. But if you don't freeze or heat up stuff, doing everything at just ambient temperature, you'll have to hit it a few times with the seal driver. And if it's not going in square, again, grab a kind of large socket that's nice and flat on one end. Kind of get it up against the side that's sticking out a bunch. Whack this with a hammer until your race is actually parallel to the mounting surface in here. And then once you do that, once you've ensured it's parallel, you'll ram in with a seal driver like nothing. But if you're in the middle of like changing out the shocks too, or the top shock mounts, or changing out the brake line, whatever, you could take all this off, walk it over to a bench press. That's definitely an option too. I don't have a press over here, so we're doing it mano y mano. So now with the new races in, that's the part that I'm at right now. I had just put these brand new ones in. So my next step is to pack these two bearings full of grease as much as I can. Kind of set them into place. And then once I do that, I will grab my new seals. Excuse me, I'm grabbing them. Make sure I'm grabbing the right ones because I'm going to share with you the part number. Here, ta-ta! So these are SKF Seals. These are actually, fairly generic common sizes. Now, with that being said, they do not exhibit the additional outer wiper seal. They're just flat basic like this. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to, well, these will probably just last me the rest of my life is probably what's going to happen. The originals were good for 100,000. If these are good for 50,000, they're going to last me a very long time. So both are like that. These are the part numbers for them. If I can find any other part numbers for these, I'll try to put them in the description. Again, just know these are different, like I wrote down on here. These are different from what the 84 cars have. The rears, however, are the same from 81 all the way to 90. They did not change any of the bearings, any of the seals, yada, yada, yada. It's just the brakes that vary back there. So, we take those after our greasy, grimy cones are put in there. We'll hammer down our seals. If you have a rear dust sleeve like this, now's your time to install it. Be kind of gentle. Cleaning up this outer edge can actually help your install. But try to find something that you can hit, with it that's nice and flat and plenty big, like that. Trying to hit it with something smaller is just going to mess this guy up. Set that down. With your seals in place, now it's time to, hopefully you can slide this this hub on. But be warned, these inner cones, they sit rather snug around that inner shaft of the hub center, the hub's core. Sit rather snug in there. So you'll start putting the hub through your bearing, and then start putting your axle through the bearing and through your hub. And once you have those started, at least, they're kind of seated and mated, go ahead and mount the knuckle onto the lower control arm. Or if it's going really hard, continue leaving it like this, and then you'll be able to hit the hub with a hammer until it's mostly seated. Once you get enough threads exposed on the shaft, you can actually tie them together like so. Otherwise, what I've had to do in the past, or at least I did it with the other side. The last EXP I did, a long time ago now, 10 years almost to the day, I had gotten lucky enough where this was very clean, very well lubed. It was sliding just in and out perfectly. And then same with this, it was sliding in and out of the bearings snug. Not like easy peasy, but snug, because it's supposed to be a very, very low clearance fit. But I was able to slide the two together quite easily. Maybe I had to use like a clamp or something here, but it wasn't any force at all. And that had gone straight through the bearings and then straight on through the shaft. And I had just enough threads exposed to start running on my bolt. And then, because you'll try running the bolt without the washer. And once you get far enough, take the bolt, I said bolt this whole time. Take the nut off, put the washer on, and then put your nut on and start torquing this up to final spec, which I believe is 190 foot-pounds. I'll put that information in the description. Okay, but what I had to do on the other side of this car was, if you can imagine, this hub is up mounted onto the inside bearings. Through the back side, I took this big old carriage bolt like this, and it happens to be just smaller than these bearings, which is amazing. Stick it through like so. Actually, for me to draw the hub onto the bearings further, I think I used this nut, this bolt instead with one of these big washers. I think I even had to stick another big washer on under it. But you get this combination, and then this will be poking out through the hub like this, and then simply tighten it up with a matching bolt and just get snug, 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 snug until you have this seated in all the way, or dang near all the way, because all the way is what it takes to have the threads of the axle poking out through it. Once you've done that, you're able to torque everything to spec, make sure all of your parts are seated. If you haven't joined the knuckle to the lower ball joint, now is the time. Put on your brakes, change out your pattern rotor if it's time. Since you're here, and if you have a buddy, a great time to be bleeding out your brake caliper. You should be bleeding it out every 6 years is the max, really. You really want to be changing out your brake fluid every 3 years, regardless of how many miles you put on it. So do that. Once you've assembled and you've ensured that it rolls well, there's no clicking or clunking or skidding or scooting or nothing, and you don't have any play anywhere, you're able to put on your wheel, torque that down, set the car back down, walk away. Speaking of jacks, this is kind of the best place to jack up the car when you're doing any work up front. Pick up on the forward sway bar mount like this. It really is the best place to do it. By doing that, it's nowhere near the wheel, nowhere near the steering or any of the other front suspension, brakes, etc. So even if you want to change out the control arm, it's all easy to do right here. Like, you haven't even seen the jack the whole time until I move the camera over. That's how ideal that place is. Anywhere along the rockers, you risk poking a hole through the car. So, I think that just about does it. If you have any questions or comments, please do leave them behind. I do get back to those pretty quick. And like I said in the description, I will put all the torque specs and then the bearing and seal sizes there for every corner of the car and every year, so that you're able to replace them regardless of the vehicle. Because, like I said, this still serves as a useful reference video for people who have the 84 to 90 cars. So, might as well put it to use, you know. But, I will let you guys go. I hope to see you soon, because that means that we got more projects done. we can kind of go and move on to other things. So, like I said, keep an eye out for the next one of these, and we will see you sometime before then.